Welcome to Ponchatoula Live, the show where we make it easy for you to connect with the people of Ponchatoula. I'm your host, Parker Layrisson, and today I've got an incredible guest that I'm super excited to introduce to you. He's an old friend of mine. We went to high school together, and he was a couple years older than I am, is still, but always somebody I looked up to. This is Pete Clark. Pete is the owner of an Allstate Insurance Agency right there in Hammond. He's a Ponchatoula native. He's a former Ponchatoula High School Key Club president. He's been an entrepreneur as long as I can remember him. He has always owned businesses, worked in businesses. He's thrived in corporate America. He's now the boss himself as a business owner. But just a great guy who's not only a business leader, but is a true community leader. He has done countless community service projects for our area and just a neat guy. So with no further ado, I'm going to bring on our special guest, Pete Clark. Pete, how are you, old friend? It's so good to see you.
It's good to see you, Parker, and thanks for inviting me. I am doing well. Thank you.
Well, thank you for coming on the show. I know you're busy as a business owner, and at this time of the year can be especially busy, especially for those of you in insurance, right? People are renewing policies and trying to get their act together. So I'm sure you're dealing with a lot of frantic phone calls and worried customers or clients, and I appreciate you making time for us. Why don't you take a moment, if you will, to just tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, so that our audience can get to know you a little better.
Yeah, I'm Pete Clark. Half will probably know me as Prominence, my government name, but most people do call me Pete for short. And
none of us can spell Prominence, so thank you for going by Pete. That helps us a lot. That's one word that's almost as difficult to spell as Layrisson, right?
yeah. So what'd you say, Parker?
I said Prominence is about as tough to spell as Layrisson, right? So
yeah, it is. But, most people call me Pete, and I've been in Ponchatoula, was raised half of my life there, and went to Ponchatoula schools and Ponchatoula High School, and I loved it. Loved the teachers, the faculty. It gave me a great foundation for education, and one of my most proud accomplishments from high school was the Key Club, being Key Club president, and able to accomplish some great things as far as our community service and network building, which really helped set me up, and a lot of other members gave us some good background for giving back in life and community service, and that's a good thing.
Absolutely. So, and I'm so glad you mentioned the Key Club. We've talked about it here with other guests before, but you're the first guest that we've had that's such an accomplished Key Club president. The Key Club, for those that are not aware of it, is the high school club that is sponsored by the Kiwanis organization. The Kiwanis Club is a public service club. It's business leaders, community leaders. Here in Ponchatoula, it's got a strong history. And that's actually how we met. You know, it's funny, in high school, you know the people above you in class, right? The older kids, you don't really pay attention to the younger kids. So you may remember very little of me from that time, and that's okay. I get it. But you were in a line of presidents of the club that I always looked up to. You started with Trey Harris, who owns, Harris Seafood here in town, local strawberry farmer. And he was the president the year before you. He came from a long Kiwanis tradition. I think then and now the scholarship, or at least the award, was named for his family, his grandfather, his father, both great Kiwanians. And when he ran the club, when I came to high school, it was a great club, but it was more like a frat. We were doing some community service, having probably more fun. And then you took over as president, and you really kicked it up a notch. I think it was the first time ever, and we could ask our mutual mentor, Danny Williams, to correct me on this, but we really became internationally renowned, because Key Club is an international organization in countries all over the world, and you started winning awards through your service. And as I recall, you were voted the best president in Louisiana, Mississippi, and Tennessee. And the reason for that was what you alluded to earlier. We were getting things done in the community. So I can tell you, as a young guy who was, a freshman when you were on that board and a sophomore when you were president, I really looked up to the example you set for our community. So can you tell us a little more about Key Club? Maybe what attracted you to the organization? What were some projects you worked on? What are you particularly proud of? Because having been there, I know, Pete, you have a lot to be proud of. You were a tremendous president and absolutely worthy of that award you got and much more.
Thank you. Yeah, we were able to take it up a notch. And as a freshman, I looked up to it, and I got into it, and I just started doing projects, volunteering at the Strawberry Festival, doing some cleanup trash activities. And, you know, I just looked forward to it. And then 10th grade came along, and I just started getting more involved and getting my friends involved with it. And then 11th grade came, and every year I became more serious. I was going to conventions, and I was like, wow, this is an international organization. They really do a lot. We can be this one day. We can be greater. So I took the challenge on, and like you said, the great leadership of Danny Williams, man, he inspired me. He let us do what we needed to do. He gave us great feedback, and he really steered us in the right direction. And so then it was just like, man, we're going to do this. Yeah. And I mean, senior year, when I was president, we won some great awards. You know, we worked, the members worked, and who didn't work, we said, okay, you know, we still got to work hard, and we pushed them to do better. And it was, as a whole, we still worked as a team. Some did a lot of activities, some didn't. But hey, even if they did 2 activities a year, like I said, you're still part of the team. Those 2 activities helped us. So,
well, that made you more inclusive and more lenient than I was as president. Because one thing I still get flack for 25 years later was when I was president of the Key Club, I kicked out my brother Bree because he didn't meet his community service hours requirement. He said, man, that's hard ass, man. That's your own brother. How can you do that? So, I was not. You had a bigger vision for keeping people around. Probably a better view there. We're here with Pete Clark, Prominence Clark, and to our viewers, I want to say thank you to you guys that are in the comments here. So you'll notice here, and thank you, Marquita. It looks like you've linked my old pal, Kanisha Callahan, from my class at PHS. Wonderful woman, I really love. Tyra McGarry, I see you throwing that laugh at us. We love to see you too. If you're watching, please, if you're watching live, leave a comment if you'd like us to talk. Prominence and I will do our very best to try to answer your comments. So if you've got a question for him about insurance, about community service, about anything, throw it in the comments, and we will do our best to get there. You're getting love all over the place. I think you're definitely setting the record for most comments early in this show. That's admirable. So getting back to Key Club, we're talking about that, you know, winning those awards, kind of taking this thing up a notch. You started a run because after that, you know, not just me, but folks ahead of me, Corey Berner was the president after you. Yes. They did a great job. They won a ton of awards. Then came me, David LaCroix after that, you know, Kevin Rayford, all these guys. Yes. Eventually we got an international president and William Sims, who led the organization worldwide. So, but I view you, you weren't the first president ever at Key Club, but you were definitely the first great Mount Rushmore president that I'm aware of that kind of put us on the map. And just take it from a guy who came later, was blessed to win a few small awards of my own and whatnot. Wouldn't have happened without you. And I think we both ought to pause, like you said, give credit to Danny Williams, because wow, what a man. He's been at it 30 years now.
Oh yeah.
Touched countless kids. Tell us about your relationship with Mr. Danny, now Dr. Danny Williams. I know that you guys stay in touch and he thinks the world of you. I'm blessed to work with him on a daily basis, but tell us about that relationship and kind of how that got going.
He kind of took me under his wing, and he really, you know, in questions I had, he was there, and you know, he motivated me. At conventions, I'm like, Danny, how do they do this? How do they win those awards and everything? And he mentored me, answered questions. We worked a plan together, and man, we would strategize, and then we just made it happen. But he was a great inspiration, role model for me. Like,
I couldn't agree
really
more.
Inspired me.
You said he was there for you. He's still with you. This is Danny in the comments there, right?
Yes, he is. Actually, we went to lunch a couple of months ago. I think right before COVID, like before in the between COVID or whatever. And we got to catch up on some times because I've kind of worked away the last 15 plus years, 12 to 15 years. So now being back, I'm able to connect with some of my local friends and mentors and stuff.
Yeah, you're right. He's such a great guy. He says here that you wanted it and he helped you get there. So
he did.
And I'm so glad that you're able to mention him. I saw Danny. He in addition to Key Club, teaching school, eventually becoming a principal, and then a central office administrator, getting his doctorate degree. He's also an accomplished musician.
Yes.
So my kids love Mr. Danny. You mentioned lunch. They go to lunch. He goes and joins my family at least once a year. We do a little outing in the city. But they were so excited last Sunday to watch him on TV, leading the singing for the First Baptist Church Choir. They had their Christmas event, and Mr. Danny's a gifted singer and just a really neat guy. So
he is very talented.
You've always been, generous in your praise of him all these years later, and Lord knows he deserves it. Yes. Well, tell us a little bit more about what your next step was. So you go to Ponchatoula High. You mentioned appreciation for the faculty, and perhaps before we go into the next step, let's talk about your experience here. That's one thing I've learned doing this about 10 episodes or so. Ponchatoula, people love to hear about Ponchatoula High. Yeah. Many of us share the same favorite teachers, favorite, principals, etc. Of course, your mother was a cornerstone of that faculty, a woman we all admired, and a great educator, a legendary educator. But tell us more about your Ponchatoula High School experience and kind of who were the people that shaped it, and what do you recall fondly from those days?
Yeah, like you said, my mom, she loved PHS and she loved the faculty. Oh my God, that was her world. She just loved it. And then Mary Beth Crovetto, Virgil Allen.
Mary Beth was our first guest on this show. Yeah,
yes, I know. just leaders and that inspired me to continue my education role and helped educate me, helped get on me when needed. And that was just really good. But man, just a lot of great faculty out there and stuff. Miss Armstrong, I mean, Miss Costanza, it's just a lot of them that just really touched and molded me and inspired me.
Those are great teachers. And you and I were fortunate to go through there in the 90s because you mentioned Mr. Allen. We barely taught Mr. Allen. It was only a few years after you graduated and 1 year after I did that he became superintendent. And he did great things in AME. But I know that, the folks that didn't get to catch him at Ponchatoula High School really missed out. Yes. We're getting some great comments, folks. Please keep it up if you're watching. We really appreciate it. Well, thank you for that. So now, as I recall, you went from Ponchatoula High School to Southeastern, and then you really hit the workforce with a fury while you were still in school. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's been over 2 decades, but I remember, for example, you worked in management in like either your late teens or early 20s. I'll never forget, Taco Bell was a cool place out in Hammond back then. And we would be there acting up, and all of a sudden, they're like, we're going to go get the manager. And who comes out? But it's Prominence Clark. What's Pete doing here? You were running a restaurant, probably 19, 20 years old. Tell us about that experience, the school, the career.
Yeah, Southeastern is my alumni, both undergrad and grad. And I got an early start. I want to say maybe 18 or 19, I became a shift manager for Taco Bell. Okay. And that kind of started my career, man. The general manager that approached me about it, I said, I'm kind of young. He said, but you have influence skills. People listen to you. You can influence them. You influence them to do bad here, but you can influence them to do good also and follow you. So that kind of stuck in me. And hey, I got on the training plan of it. And then I got my first step in management. And I said, this is probably, I kind of sort of wanted to do it, but then, I'm just like, okay, let me get my management degree. And it just kept going and going from there. But Taco Bell gave me my first management start.
Wow. And as a teenager, that's amazing. Now, did you go straight into grad school or did you do that later?
I did grad school later. I worked a little bit, after I got out of undergrad. I joined the Wendy's team. Wendy's International is what it was then, the hamburger place. And I spent about 13-ish, 14-ish years there. Right. But Wendy's actually was the bulk of my career as far as management.
I understand that career took you away from home.
It did.
Where did you go?
It did. It took me you know, I to New Orleans for a while. Then I came back to Hammond and managed the restaurant, and then I, moved up on a regional level, and
Right.
I had stores in New Orleans, and I traveled. So
Yeah.
it kept me busy, but it was away from here.
But speaking of New Orleans, our friend Tyra McGarry, who's a New Orleans celebrity, everybody knows Tyra down there.
Yes.
She's a big deal. And she says you've got leadership in your DNA here in the comments, and I couldn't agree more. Tyra, thank you for tuning in. It's so good to see you. Mark Verbois, another one of our old Ponchatoula Key Club,
Yes,
says that you're an example of awesome alums that have walked the halls of PHS, and that's certainly true. So we're talking about your career at this point, going from Ponchatoula High School into management through Wendy's, going to New Orleans. Tell us about what that experience is like coming from. And you mentioned you grew up here half your life, right? Did you start somewhere else and then come to Ponchatoula? What
in Hammond. I was originally born in New Orleans, but I was raised in Hammond. So yeah, half of a couple of years in Hammond, and then we came to Ponchatoula. Yeah.
Okay. Neat. And then you head back to New Orleans, where it all started for you.
Then I head back to New Orleans, and I got a chance to work for a great organization, and learned a lot. Wendy spent a lot of money on development and training, and how to manage people and how to manage situations and how to work with people and hold on to them and how to take them from baby steps into being great workers and great leaders. And I really appreciate the knowledge that I gained from Wendy's.
Well, if you wouldn't mind, share a little of that knowledge with us now. What are some things you learned at Wendy's about leadership, about business, about anything really, that you think could help our viewers in their life?
One huge thing was people development, and Wendy's International back then, it was a firm believer of hold on to your people. If how do we build a relationship with them? How do we hire the right people, train them right, and then hold on to them? We wanted to be an employer of choice, not just hire you gone 2 months from now, and we're looking at, they were garbage employees. No. Interview right. Let's train them right. And if we lost them, we had to look in the mirror to say, did we do everything we could have done to salvage their relationship? So that was a huge thing that they taught me on. How do we work with our people to train them better? You either pay now by hiring the right people, training them right, treating them right, or you're going to pay later when it's a revolving door. You're steady hiring and losing. So that was one of the biggest things that just stuck in my mind. In any business, you need people. You need good people. And sometimes they may not be the right employee today, but if you work with them and build a relationship and train them right, down the line, they could be future leaders and managers for you.
I'm so glad to hear you say that, because what you're letting us know is that this giant corporation that's been hugely successful recognizes that it's founded on people, right? Not cheeseburgers.
Right.
You got to have the right people. And you said get the right people. We mentioned Mr. Danny earlier. He now works with me. He's the chief administrative officer at a law firm. And I think just this morning he was talking about how it's important to get the right people on the bus. He was using the bus analogy. Then we can figure out putting them in the right seats and training them up to that position. But getting the right people is the key, no matter what you're doing. And it's kind of like football coaches. We saw LSU. I mean, thank God they won that last game, narrowly avoided a losing season. But you got to have the players there before you can get the wins, no matter how great the coaching is or whatnot. And that's a great lesson to learn. So tell us about the next step. You go to Taco Bell, that gets your start. You get it bumped up to leadership at a super young age. Then you take it to the next level with Wendy's and do something on a much larger scale really well. What comes next in your career, in your life?
Came next. I got to spend a couple of years with Raising Cane's, the chicken finger place. And that was enjoyable. I learned a lot about Cane's, because Cane's is the second level of Wendy's when it comes to people and the hospitality, and then the marketing side. I really got to learn a lot about the marketing, because you are your marketer. You're in the community. You're building relationships. I mean, it is unbelievable the things of marketing that you do with Raising Cane's and you learn. So
They're
the
masters
marketing
in
side, it just
yeah.
Raising Cane's enhance those skills.
So you had that stuff naturally, but Cane's gives you the tools to take it to the next level.
It gives you skills to take it to the next level. And it was just great, the marketing, man, the things that you learn. Cane's philosophy is, how do you find a way? If somebody wants a sponsorship, we can't give them $5,000, but how do we find a way to help them? It could be in other forms, but you dig and you try to find other alternatives, and it's just building community relationships, It's wonderful.
Yeah. Well, I'm noticing a theme here in all your success, from the high school to Cane's, relationships, right? And PHS, relationships with your students, your mentor, Danny. Then, you're talking about it with your employees at Wendy's and Cane's now, relationships with the community. What do you think is been the secret to your success in excelling at developing such strong relationships and such meaningful and lifelong relationships? Because I know you stay in touch with people that you met, decades ago. What are kind of some of your secrets to success when it comes to relationships and bonds?
One thing I saw when I was raised and how Mama taught me was, you never know who you're gonna need in life. You always have to treat people right. And I've lived by that philosophy. I just always stay humble. I have some great friends that I can call my friends, and they look out for me. And it's good to keep those relationship ties with people. And then you can learn from people. It doesn't matter how much education a person have. I always learn stuff from people that I meet and stuff, and that's a great thing.
So it's kind of like that book that's, everything you needed to learn, you learned in kindergarten, right?
Right.
To your success at a high level in business with all this education really boils down to what your mom taught you growing up, how you treat people.
Yeah.
Marshall, I'm looking here at the comments again. Marshall Muse talks about just always treat people right. Thank you for sharing that. That's right. That's the name of the game. So, we're still talking about your journey here. Okay. We're now decades into a journey that, is involving leadership at several levels, at several different, very successful organizations, at franchises that people know, brands that are known around the globe, Taco Bell, Wendy's, Cane's. What comes next after the Cane's journey? It's the next move back here to home, owning your own business, or
the next move is I went back to Wendy's and spent about another year or two in a different role.
Okay.
The training for Louisiana, and I traveled throughout the state and everything. And then that's when the insurance thing came about. I said, it's time for me to do something, kind of what I've been wanting to do. I kind of wanted to get into the insurance and financial business 20 years ago, but it never happened. And kind of the time kind of landed and said, hey, now is the time.
Okay. Well, tell us about that opportunity. How did it come to fruition?
It came about, Allstate and I, we crossed paths, and it was kind of like Danny said, they saw I wanted it. Right. And I met the right field sales leader with Allstate, and we got it together. Yeah. She saw I wanted it. I asked the right questions. She pushed me, and bam, within 8 months, I'm landed though. I'm on the road. I'm doing the process. I want to do this.
Well, how much of the skills you learned in corporate America in the food service industry apply to what you're doing now in insurance and financial services? Has that been a great foundation? Are you glad you spent 20 years doing that stuff? Or would you rather it have worked out 20 years ago and gone straight into insurance? What's your thinking on that?
I always, somebody said, how do you turn lemons into lemonade? And that's a philosophy. So I never kind of say, oh, I wish I would have. It happened this way and I'm great. Yeah. But yes, I am happy that I was able to spend that time, because the things that I've learned about the financial analysis, the profit and loss of running a business, the people skills of it, all of that has really, really helped me. I mean, from the customer aspect of it, from the financial aspect of it, from the employee relationship building aspect of it, the community and marketing aspect of it. So
Right.
it was like, I've done this.
Yeah.
Now I just incorporate everything that I've learned
Yeah.
into this Allstate philosophy and how, you know what I'm saying, kind of how Allstate wants it done. But that has been very, very helpful.
Yeah, sure. So lemons into lemonade. Very seldom do you hear that it involves literal lemonade. But at Cane's, we all know some of the best lemonade on the planet. So
Yes.
your lemons to lemonade journey involved actually making lemonade, or at least employing the people that did that. That's kind of
Yes.
cool.
Yes.
Another great comment here. That's things that you're teaching us here: humility and the willingness to learn from other people. Those are keys here, and certainly trademarks of yours. So let's talk insurance, because I'm a personal injury attorney, right? So 100% of my clients are folks that have had a really bad day. They've been injured in a car wreck, and we've learned over the years the importance of insurance. Louisiana is a really poor state. About half the people on the road either have minimum coverage or no coverage.
Yes.
Very few people are what I would consider well insured. So I know that you have a challenge there being in a market like this. And it seems like people are perhaps undereducated about their insurance needs. Tell us about what you're doing to help people understand what they need and to meet the needs. Because I've seen so many horror stories, people that come to me and say, I got hit, and then we learn the person who hit them had no insurance, and the person who's the victim, my potential client, didn't buy uninsured motorist insurance. So they're completely unprotected, and it's a tragedy. And we can't go back in time and make a good decision, before the accident, but you can help them today prevent future tragedies. So just using that as a jumping off point, tell us about insurance and what your approach has been to help your customers and clients in Allstate.
From day one, the training aspect of the training I had to go through before I opened up the doors with Allstate, day one is they preached in our head, we are trusted advisors. Your customers, your potential customers, your actual customers, they look for you to be their trusted advisor. They trust you. And that is embedded into me. I've embedded that into my staff. I thank God I actually have my original staff since I've opened. I haven't lost any.
Yeah.
So that's a blessing. And I am, from day one, the training that was embedded in me, I embedded it in them.
Sure.
We're trusted advisors. And you're right, insurance is very tricky.
Yeah.
Even for some of our most educated people, the lingo and language of insurance can be a little intimidating for them.
Right.
So we even we break it down sometimes on an elementary level, depending on the customer's knowledge, because we want them to know. You're right. If we're not doing the right thing of making sure that you understand, to make sure that you are protected, then we're not doing our job. And, in my morning meetings, in my situations that I'm following up on, every situation is a learning lesson. What did we learn from it? I ask my staff, what did we learn from it? What did we learn? Okay, what do we need to do differently? Because you're right. People want to be protected. People want to know that if something happens, I am protected. I want to understand it because I want to be protected. People work hard for their, the stuff, their homes, their automobiles, and it's about being protected. And that's why I am their trusted advisors, and my staff, we are their trusted advisors.
Yeah, you're right, because it's about peace of mind at the end of the day, right? Not only do you need that financial protection, but until that day comes, you want the peace of mind of feeling protected. So you can put your head on the pillow and go to sleep without a worry, because you're covered. Your trusted advisor, Pete Clark, walked you through the process and helped you identify needs and help you cover needs. And that's needed. It sounds a lot like what we do in practice and law. We're not just advocates. When people think of attorneys as guys that go to court and fight, and of course it's part of what we do, it's a big part, but being an advisor is an equally big part. At the end of the day, we're trying to help our clients make good decisions, and it sounds like that's exactly what you're trying to do with their insurance needs. You mentioned that you still have your original staff. That's impressive. We live in an era of huge turnover.
Yeah.
What things have been keys to success for you obtaining a great team and keeping a great team?
One thing, going back to what Danny said, trying to hire the right people. You know, I interviewed them. I thought about it. They thought about it. You know, we had some time to think before I brought them aboard. They knew my vision from day one. I am a straightforward person. Sometimes I'm not the easiest person to work for, but I am very fair and consistent. And then this is a family environment. You know, employers today have to understand it is a different day and time than 10 years ago. You have to be flexible. You have to have a great working environment. You have to have a growing environment, you know, where people learn. And it has to be like a family. You know, we're like a family. If one is out today, the other ones, we have to pull our weight, you know what I'm saying, to have the other ones back. It's not mess and all like that. We're here to work and have fun. We're here to take care of business, but it's about having fun as well.
Yeah. Well, look, anybody that knows you like to have fun, right? I mean, your parties, you're well known as a host that can, you know, put on a great party. You're fun wherever you go, and that comes as no surprise. We've got a comment here that says you know that you're great, brother, and that's from St. Joseph Baptist Church, and I agree. You know, you're getting love all over these comments. You know. My old buddy Crystal Landry says you're a great leader and friend. She's a hoot.
Wow,
she would probably know a thing or two about one of your legendary holiday parties or something. She's wonderful woman. Good old PHS pals.
Yeah.
Well, that's neat. So we're talking about building a team and he's getting the right people. What else would you like to share? You know, I think the people clearly you're getting a lot of comments because people are highly interested in what you've got to say. We're coming close to running out of time here. So I don't want to rush you. We've got all the time you need. But I think, you know, what's on your mind? What would you like to share with people? You know, what other wisdom do you have to share?
Couple more things that has been a great inspiration to me is, you know, my pastor, Reverend Morris Payne. And I go to Mount Moriah Baptist Church in Hammond. It's a small knit church, but we're like family. But he's been a great leader and inspired me a lot on growing, you know, getting closer to God. And then some other things that I'm very proud of our accomplishments at, you know, being open just a little over a year as some of the community things that we were able to tap into, you know, like our Daily Bread, you know, sponsor, some of the schools, Petra College, Hammond East Side, Hammond High, Ponchatoula High. The Children's Hospital in New Orleans, you know, doing some sponsorships with them. St. Thomas, Ponchatoula Basketball Association, the Covenant House. So, you know, like I said, taking that learning from Wendy's and Raising Cane's, that really helped me on, okay, you got this. Now it's just transferring. You're in Allstate, okay, but those skills still transfer over. But being able to really hit the ground running and give back to, you know, our community, it's just something I strive at. And I know COVID hit, you know, this year. So some things happened where we had to back off. But I really take pride in that. And my staff loves that because that has always been embedded in me. How do we give back to our community from small things to larger things? And I can't start large, but you start small and you can get greater and greater. And then even being a member of the Greater Hammond Chamber, you know, that has been a great, you know, inspiration to me as well. The people that I'm coming across and the other small, great business leaders, that's really been great for me.
You make a great point about giving back. You know, you could start small. And I've been following you know, community service for 25 plus years, you know, in Key Club, but same thing's present in business, right? We have this little Bikes for Kids program, and it started just giving away a few bikes every year.
Yes.
Little by little it grew. So we were giving away 5 bikes, 10 bikes, 20 bikes. You know, the key is to be giving back, to make it part of your culture within your team and part of your business operations from day one. And I hope people that are watching understand the importance of doing business with local folks. You know, it's no accident that Pete Clark, who grew up, you know, here in the Ponchatoula and Hammond area, is now owning a business here, employing people here, and giving back to that community. So when you do business with Pete Clark, you can bet you're helping the high school basketball team get sponsored, you know, the food bank get funded, etc. You know, sometimes you work for good businesses like Canes that do that, even though they're national.
Right.
But not all big businesses do, right?
Right.
So, you know, doing business locally is super important.
Yes.
We've got a question here. Marquita Yvette has a great question. She says, what advice would you have for all the leaders out there in Tangi?
I would say support, like you just stressed, support our other local businesses. And you know, we have insurance people everywhere, but hey, it's okay. We still have to support each other. You know, there's some events I want to do, some community events eventually with other insurance agency owners.
Yeah.
We're in competition, but at the end of the day, it's okay.
Yeah.
You know, we still can come together and do some events. It can't be no bad blood. My pastor teaches me every day, we can disagree without being disagreeable.
Sure.
Also, you know, giving back and being humble. Giving back and being humble, I think those are some of the greatest things that business owners can do.
Yeah, that's a great point. Tony Licciardi, the administrator over at Hammond City Court, himself a local business owner. It's Dr. Tony Licciardi. He says, thanks, Pete. Keep up all you do. Tony, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate that. Next week, we're going to be back here with another local business owner who's from this area and gives back a ton. And that's Marshall Graves with Graves Automotive. He's also a school bus driver. So we're going to learn more about education here. But Pete, I just want to thank you for spending time with us here today, because you're an important person, a business owner. You're very busy, and I know this is a busy time of the year. So folks that are watching from home, we've got Pete Clark here with Pete Clark at Allstate Insurance Agency in Hammond. If you have insurance needs or any financial service needs that Allstate could provide, please give Pete a call. Pete, would you mind sharing with the folks how they could get in touch with you, whether it's phone number, website, whatever? How would you like people to contact you?
Either way, we're located by the mall next to Golden Corral, right on Southwest Railroad Avenue. You can Google Pete Clark Allstate Agency, and then the number is 985-269-0997.
Yeah. Well, thank you again. You have been a wonderful guest, and you've always been a great asset to our local community. And I'm so glad we got you back, because I know you traveled around for a while and you keeping up with how well you were doing through our friend Danny and our friend, Erica Williams and other people that we have in common that we, see. But Ponchatoula, Hammond, we need you. We need business leaders like you to be here giving back. And we're very, very fortunate that you did. So thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate you. And to our viewers, thanks for tuning in. We'll be back next week. Merry Christmas to you all. Have a great day.
Thank you.